So now let's get on with chapter 9, which is about sympathomimetics. And the sympathomimetics constitute a very important group of drugs used for cardiovascular, respiratory, and other conditions. They are readily divided into subgroups on the basis of their spectrum of action into alpha or beta or dopamine receptor agonists, or their mode of action into direct or indirect. So sympathomimetic agonists or sympathomimetics, on the basis of their mode of action, they are divided into direct acting and indirect acting drugs. Direct acting, again, they are divided on the basis of their spectrum of action into alpha agonist, beta agonist, and dopamine receptor affinity or whatever. So coming to the alpha agonist, we have non-selective alpha agonist sympathomimetics such as norepinephrine. So non-selective norepinephrine. Now coming to alpha 1 selective, see 1 is prime, right? So we have P. So 1 alpha 1 phenylephrine, okay? Next alpha 2, see you need ICE 2C, so clonidine, or if you have 2 of anything is a clone, right? So 2 clonidine. Now coming to beta agonist, non-selective is isoproterenol, okay? Beta 1 selective is dobutamine, okay? So first it was 2C, now it's 1D, okay? To see a 1D object. So dobutamine, okay, you're doubting this. So beta 1 to see 1D dobutamine, and beta 2 selective 2 all, okay, so 2 albuterol. Now coming to indirect acting drugs, they either increase the release of endogenous catecholamines at the synapse, such as amphetamine or tyramine. So when I'm tired, I release the stored catecholamines, right? I release stored things when I'm tired. So amphetamine and tyramine, they are releases, and you have something that reduces the reuptake of, the reuptake of catecholamine by catecholomethyltransferase. You have these substances like cocaine. So coming to the classification, adrenoceptors are further classified as alpha, beta, dopamine receptors. These groups are further divided into subgroups. Epinephrine may be considered as a single prototype agonist with effects at all alpha and beta receptor types. Alternatively, separate prototypes such as phenylephrine, an alpha agonist, phenylephrine, P for prime, right? So alpha 1 selective agonist, and isoproterenol, non-selective beta agonist, non-selective, may be defined. The just mentioned drugs have relatively little effect on dopamine receptors, but dopamine itself is a potent dopamine receptor agonist, and when given as a drug, can also activate beta receptors in intermediate doses and alpha receptors in larger doses. Coming to their mode of action, sympathomimetics may directly activate their adrenoceptors, or they may act indirectly to increase the concentration of endogenous catecholamine transmitter in the synapse. So amphetamine derivatives and tyramine cause the release of stored catecholamines at the synapse level, and they are therefore mainly indirect in their mode of action. So releases increase the release of stored catecholamines at the synapse level. Cocaine and other antidepressants and certain other antidepressants exhibit another form of indirect action. They inhibit reuptake of catecholamines by the NET, norepinephrine transporter, and dopamine transporter DAT in the nerve terminals, and thus increase the synaptic activity of the released transmitter. Okay, blockade of metabolism such as block of catecholomethyltransferase COMT and monoamine oxidase MAO has little direct effect on autonomic activity, but MAO inhibition increases the stores of catecholamines and released molecules in the adrenergic synaptic vessels, and thus may potentiate the action of indirect acting sympathomimetics such as amphetamines that cause release of stored transmitter. So how do cocaine and certain antidepressants act? They inhibit the reuptake of catecholamines by norepinephrine transporter NET and dopamine transporter DAT. Okay, so they inhibit reuptake by transporters NET and DAT. Okay, so let's discuss a few high yield terms. Anorexiant is something that decreases appetite and increases or causes anorexia. Catecholamines are dihydroxyphenylethylamine derivatives such as norepinephrine and epinephrine, and the catecholamines are relatively polar molecules that are readily metabolized by COMT. What is a decongestant? So basically, if something is dilated, it occupies large space and it congests, right? it congests the surrounding tissue. So whereas if you constrict the submucosal vessels, there is still space, so you are decongesting it. A decongestant is an alpha agonist drug that reduces conjunctival, nasal or oropharyngeal mucosal vasodilation by causing constriction of the blood vessels in the submucosum. Okay, mydriatic, something that dilates the pupil. Phenyl isopropylamine, it is a synthetic sympathomimetic with isopropylamine in its structure, so such as amphetamine and ephedrine. Unlike catecholamines, phenyl isopropylamines usually have oral activity because they're sympathetic, right? So you want them to have oral activity. That is why you've synthetically modified something in its structure. They have a long half-life, CNS activity, and cause the release of stored catecholamines. So selective alpha or beta adrenoceptor agonists, drugs that have relatively greater effects on alpha or beta adrenoceptors, none are absolutely selective or specific. Sympathomimetic, a drug that mimics stimulation of one or more components of the sympathetic autonomic nervous system. And reuptake inhibitors, an indirect acting drug that increases the activity of transmitters in the synapse or by inhibiting the reuptake into the presynaptic nerve ending. They may act selectively on adrenergic, serotonergic, or both types of nerve endings. So coming to the types of adrenoceptors outside the CNS, some of the peripheral tissues in which they are found and their major effects. So alpha 1, so it is found, alpha 1 receptors are found in most vascular smooth muscle, pupillary dilator muscle, pilomotor smooth muscle, bladder, liver, etc. in some species. Okay, so prostatic smooth muscle and all that. So alpha 1, it is present on the eyes. Okay, you only have one liver, so in some animals in the liver you only have one bladder, so in the bladder trigone. Okay, and beneath the bladder you have the prostate, right? So prostate, and also the pupillary dilator muscle, because sympathetics, they dilate the pupil. When you are in an emergency situation, your eyes become big and you sort of dilate the pupil. And also in most vascular smooth muscle. So what are the actions? It contracts, that is, it increases vascular resistance because sympathetic vasoconstriction, parasympathetic vasodilation. Okay, sympathetic vasoconstriction, sympathetic bronchodilation. Okay, let's remember this later on. So eyes, again, mydriasis contracts the dilator muscle and contracts, it erects the hair because it is present in pilomotor smooth muscle. It erects the hair, so that is why when you are scared you have goosebumps. Okay, so you look at your goosebumps, right? And again, bladder trigone, it contracts the trigone and the prostatic smooth muscle, and it stimulates glycogenolysis in the liver in some species. Coming to alpha 2 receptors, so they are present in the adrenergic and cholinergic nerve terminals. So alpha 2 are present in the nerve terminals, the platelets. So these are platelet cells, megakaryocytes, and also like this only in the spherical structure at the nerve terminals they are present. Okay, and some vascular smooth muscle, most are alpha 1, adipocytes as well, and pancreatic beta cells. Okay, so alpha 2 beta cells. Okay, so what they do is, adrenergic and cholinergic nerve terminals, they inhibit the transmitter release. Platelets, they stimulate the aggregation of the platelets. Okay, and they cause a contraction of the vascular smooth muscle. They inhibit lipolysis. Okay, and also pancreatic beta cells, they inhibit the insulin release. Okay, they inhibit. Coming to beta 1 is present in the heart. So beta 1 is present in heart and JG cells of the kidney. So it stimulates rate and force and stimulates renin release. Beta 2 is present in the airways. Okay, in the airways alveoli, here you have the bronchi. So it relaxes the airways or causes constriction, bronchodilation. It relaxes the airways, vasoconstriction, bronchodilation. Beta 2 is present in the liver. Okay, and pancreatic beta cells. Beta 2 and alpha 2 are present in the pancreatic B cells. 2, beta 2, alpha 2. What's the second letter in the English alphabet? B. So beta cells, alpha 2 and beta 2 receptors. Some somatic motor neuron terminals and also in the heart. Okay, so you have beta 2 receptors. So you stimulate glycogenolysis, breakdown of stored glycogen, stimulates insulin release. So alpha 2, it inhibits insulin release. Beta 2 stimulates insulin release. Okay, so that is the action. You have beta 2 cells in the pancreas and alpha 2 cells in the pancreas. Beta cells are what release insulin or synthesize insulin. Alpha says no, That is why when you write alpha, you write it like a cross. Alpha says no to insulin. Beta says yes to insulin. Okay, and the beta 2 receptors in the heart, they stimulate rate and force. Beta 3, it is present on adipocytes. Okay, so when you're in the third stage of your relationship or whatever, you try to give a ring, right? So signet ring shaped appearance is of adipocytes. It stimulates lipolysis. So dopamine receptors, D1 receptors are present in renal and other splanchnic blood vessels. D for dilation, they dilate and decrease the resistance. D2 are present in the nerve terminals and inhibit adenylyl cyclase enzyme. So coming to the chemistry and pharmacokinetics, the endogenous adrenoceptor agonists, epinephrine, norepinephrine and dopamine are catecholamines and are rapidly metabolized by COMT and MA. If used as drugs, these adrenoceptor agonists are relatively inactive by the oral route and must be given parenterally. That is why you have the synthetic drug that kind of, has oral activity. So when released from nerve endings, they are subsequently taken up by NET or DAT into nerve endings and into perisynaptic cells. This uptake may also occur with exogenous norepinephrine, epinephrine and dopamine given as drugs. These agonists have a short duration of action. When given parenterally, they do not enter the central nervous system. Isoproterenol, a synthetic catecholamine, is similar to the endogenous transmitter, but it is not readily taken up into the nerve endings. Phenylisopropylamines, such as amphetamines, are resistant to MAO. Most of them are not catecholamines and are therefore also resistant to COMT. Phenylisopropylamines are synthetic, they are orally active, they enter the CNS and their effects last much longer than do those of catecholamines. Tyramine, which is not a phenylisopropylamine, it is not synthetic, so it is rapidly metabolized by MAO, inactive orally, except in patients who are taking a MAO inhibitor drug. MAO inhibitors are sometimes used in the treatment of depression. Because tyramine is found in fermented foods, patients taking MAO inhibitors may have hypertensive reactions to such foods. Because tyramine is found in fermented foods. Okay. So you need to be careful while giving MAO inhibitors to patients eating fermented foods because they may have hypertensive reactions. So coming to mechanisms of action, alpha receptor effects are mediated primarily by the trimeric coupling protein GQ. Okay. So when GQ is activated, the alpha moiety of this protein activates the enzyme phospholipase C, resulting in the release of inositol triphosphate IP3 and diacylglycerol DAG from membrane lipids. IP3 acts on intracellular IP3 receptors to cause calcium release from stores in the smooth muscle cells. Direct gating of membrane calcium channels may also play a role in increasing intracellular calcium concentration. Intracellular enzymes are activated by DAG. Alpha 2 receptor activation results in inhibition of adenylyl cyclase via the coupling protein GI. Okay. So alpha 1, it has a GQ action. So it increases IP3, which increases intracellular calcium, and also DAG, which kind of activates intracellular enzymes. And alpha 2 receptors, they are GI type receptors, so they inhibit adenylyl cyclase enzyme. Okay. Now coming to beta receptor effects, all beta receptors stimulate adenylyl cyclase via the coupling protein GS, which leads to an increase in cyclic adenosine monophosphate. So GS increases cyclic AMP concentration within the cell, and some evidence suggests that beta receptors may exert G protein independent effects after binding beta arrestin. So beta arrestin, beta receptors. So biased agonists appear to have effects in addition to traditional GS activating actions. Beta arrestin may mediate these actions. So now coming to dopamine receptor effects. So dopamine D1 receptors activate adenylyl cyclase via the GS and increase CAMP in the neurons and vascular smooth muscle. Dilation of vessels results. So D, it is present in renal and splanchnic blood vessels, that they increase or dilate those vessels. D2 receptors are more important in the brain, but probably also play a significant role as presynaptic receptors on peripheral nerves. These receptors reduce the synthesis of CAMP via GI. Okay, they reduce the synthesis of CAMP. Okay, so coming to the organ system effects. On the central nervous system, catecholamines do not enter the CNS readily. Sympathomimetics that do enter the CNS, such as amphetamines, isopropylamines, etc., have a spectrum of stimulant effects, beginning with mild alerting or reduction of fatigue and progressing to anorexia. We learned about it, right? So anorexia, euphoria. So when you take cocaine, you're happy, right? and insomnia. So when you're happy, you don't feel like sleeping, you feel like living in the moment. So insomnia. These CNS effects reflect both a noradrenergic effect and the amplification of dopamine's action in the ventral tegmental area and other CNS nuclei. Okay, so they reflect both a noradrenergic effect, and also an amplification of dopamine's action in the ventral tegmental area and other CNS nuclei. Repeated dosing of amphetamines results in the rapid development of tolerance and dependence. So that is why you should not give amphetamines repeatedly. Very high doses of amphetamines leads to marked anxiety or aggressiveness, paranoia, and less commonly seizures. Overdoses of cocaine very commonly result in seizures. Okay, so if you give releasers such as amphetamines, so they're increasing your activity, right? So increased activity or increased overactivity causes paranoia and aggressiveness and anxiety, whereas cocaine results in seizures. Okay, some alpha 2 selective agonists such as clonidine cause vasoconstriction when administered intravenously or locally into the conjunctival sac. However, when given chronically, they are readily taken up into the CNS and reduce sympathetic outflow, probably by activating alpha 2 adrenoceptors on presynaptic nerve endings. So, as a result, they can lower blood pressure. Okay, so they cause vasoconstriction when given intravenously. However, when given chronically, they can lower the blood pressure. Alright, so because when given chronically, the CNS is habituated, so they readily enter the CNS and they reduce sympathetic outflow. So now coming to the eye, the smooth muscle of the pupillary dilator responds to topical phenylephrine and similar alpha agonists with contraction and mydriasis. So accommodation is not significantly altered because it's more of a parasympathetic activity. Outflow of aqueous humor may be facilitated by non-selective alpha agonists with a subsequent reduction of intraocular pressure. This probably occurs via the uveoscleral drainage system. Alpha 2 selective agonists also reduce intraocular pressure, apparently by reducing the synthesis of aqueous humor. Okay, so coming to the bronchi, so the smooth muscle of the bronchi relaxes markedly in response to beta 2 agonists such as isoproterenol and albuterol. Okay, so these agents are the most efficacious and reliable drugs for reversing bronchospasm. So you use salbutamol, right, for asthma. So albuterol. Okay, it is a beta 2. All is there, right? So all 2. So beta 2 receptors agonists. Okay, stuff like that. And then coming to the GIT, the GI tract is well endowed with both alpha and beta receptors located both on smooth muscle and on neurons of the enteric nervous system. Activation of either alpha or beta receptors leads to relaxation of the smooth muscle. Alpha 2 agonists may also decrease salt and water secretion into the intestine. Coming to the genitourinary tract, it contains alpha receptors in the bladder, trigone, and in the sphincter area. These receptors mediate contraction of the sphincter. So in men, alpha 1 receptors mediate prostatic smooth muscle contraction. Sympathomimetics are sometimes used to increase sphincter tone, and beta 2 agonists may cause significant uterine relaxation in pregnant women near term, but the doses required also cause significant tachycardia. Okay, so now coming to the vascular system, different vascular beds respond differently depending on their dominant receptor type. So coming to alpha agonists, alpha 1 agonists such as phenylephrine P prime contract vascular smooth muscle, especially in the skin and the splanchnic blood vessels, and increase the peripheral vascular resistance and venous pressure. Because these drugs increase the blood pressure, they often evoke a compensatory reflex bradycardia that is mediated by the vagus. Okay, so coming to alpha 2 agonists such as clonidine cause vasoconstriction when administered intravenously or topically, but when given orally, they accumulate in the CNS and reduce sympathetic outflow and blood pressure. Okay, so when given orally, they cause vasoconstriction. Okay, vasoconstriction increases the resistance. So increase resistance. So when given orally, they increase resistance. When given chronically, they reduce blood blood pressure. Okay. So coming to beta 2 agonists such as albuterol, metaproterenol, and terbutaline, and non-selective beta agonists such as isoproterenol cause significant reduction in arteriolar tone in the skeletal muscle vascular bed and can reduce peripheral vascular resistance and arterial blood pressure. Beta 1 agonists have relatively little effect on vessels but are potent cardiac stimulants. Okay, and now coming to dopamine. Dopamine causes vasodilation in the splanchnic and renal blood vessels by activating D1 receptors. This effect can be useful in the treatment of renal failure associated with shock. At higher doses, dopamine activates beta receptors in the heart and elsewhere, and at still higher doses, alpha receptors are activated. So coming to the heart is well supplied with beta 1 and beta 2 receptors, mostly beta 1. So beta 1 receptors predominate in some parts of the heart. Both beta 1 and beta 2 receptors mediate increased rate of cardiac pacemakers, normal and abnormal, increased atrioventricular node conduction velocity, and increased cardiac force. Coming to net cardiovascular actions. So sympathomimetics with both alpha and beta 1 effects such as norepinephrine may cause reflex increase in vagal outflow because they increase blood pressure and evoke the baroreceptor reflex. This reflex vagal effect may dominate any direct beta effects on the heart rate, so that a slow infusion of norepinephrine typically causes increased blood pressure and bradycardia. Okay, so if the reflex is blocked by a ganglion blocker or antimuscarinic drug, norepinephrine will cause direct beta 1 mediated tachycardia. Norepinephrine is supposed to cause tachycardia if there is no reflex baroreceptor reflex response. So if you are blocking the baroreceptor reflex by a ganglion blocker or antimuscarinic drug, there will be direct beta 1 mediated tachycardia because beta 1 is what is present in the heart. But when the baroreceptors function, so norepinephrine, there is a reflex vagal effect that may dominate any direct beta effects on the heart rate, so that a slow infusion of norepinephrine typically causes increased blood pressure and bradycardia. Okay, slow administration, bradycardia, but if you are blocking the reflex, then you have tachycardia. A pure alpha agonist such as phenylephrine routinely slows the heart rate via the baroreceptor reflex, whereas a pure beta agonist almost always increases the heart rate. Okay, diastolic blood pressure is affected mainly by peripheral vascular resistance in the heart rate. The heart rate is important because the diastolic interval determines the outflow of the blood from the arterial compartment. The adrenoceptors with the greatest effects on vascular resistance are alpha and beta 2 receptors. The pulse pressure, the systolic minus diastolic pressure, is determined mainly by the stroke volume, which is influenced by beta 1 receptors because they are primarily present in the heart. The systolic pressure is the sum of the diastolic and the pulse pressures and is therefore a function of both alpha and beta effects. Okay, so that is why your diastolic pressure is the pulse pressure is mainly maintained by the stroke volume, and it is affected by beta receptors. The systolic pressure is maintained by both. Coming to metabolic and hormonal effects, so beta 1 agonists increase renin secretion. Okay, they are present in the heart and the lung, juxtaglomerular apparatus, right? So beta 2 agonists increase insulin secretion. They also increase glycogenolysis in the liver, and resulting hyperglycemia is countered by the increased insulin levels. They increase insulin levels to counter the resultant hyperglycemia because of glycogenolysis in the liver. Transport of glucose out of the liver is associated initially with hyperkalemia. Transport into peripheral organs is accompanied by movement of potassium into the cells, resulting in a latter hypokalemia. Okay, all currently available beta agonists appear to stimulate lipolysis via the beta 3 receptor. So before we get on with the clinical uses, let us discuss this table and figure. So phenylephrine, it is P, right? So prime alpha 1, so it increases the vascular resistance. Okay, sympathetic vasoconstriction. It also sympathetic vasoconstriction increases the muscle vascular resistance, renal vascular resistance, mean blood pressure also, because it is an alpha, but it decreases the heart rate because primarily they are not present, they are not beta receptors, right? It is an alpha 1 selective drug, so when slowly administered, it causes bradycardia. Isoproterenol, so it kind of decreases the skeletal muscle vascular resistance. Okay, it also decreases the mean blood pressure, but at the same time it increases the heart rate. Okay, whereas norepinephrine, it increases all sorts of resistance, but also increases the mean blood pressure. So compensatory reflex response, it decreases the heart rate, whereas the direct response, if the reflexes are blocked, it increases the heart rate. Okay, isoproterenol decreases the mean blood pressure. Both phenylephrine and norepinephrine, they increase the mean blood pressure. So now discussing the typical effects. So we have norepinephrine. So norepinephrine, see, remember one thing, pulse pressure is an action of beta receptors, and systolic blood pressure is an action of both alpha as well as beta receptors. Remember this. Okay. So now coming to this figure. So pulse. So these blue lines represent systolic and diastolic blood pressures. In this middle line, okay, it represents the mean BP. Okay, mean arterial pressure, and the gap between systolic and diastolic is the pulse pressure, the difference. So coming to norepinephrine, what it does is when reflexes are intact, it decreases the heart rate because of reflex bradycardia. So there is a decrease in heart rate. Okay, reflex bradycardia, but it increases the BP. Okay, so that is why your BP increases, both systolic and diastolic, but pulse pressure does not increase. It may increase slightly, but there is no marked increase, because pulse pressure, the action is basically determined by beta receptors, but norepinephrine is a non-selective alpha agonist. Whereas coming to isoproterenol, which is a non-selective beta agonist, what happens is, see, norepinephrine, it decreases the heart rate and increases the BP. Okay, heart rate and BP. So, but isoproterenol, what it does is it increases the heart rate. Okay, so when you administer it, it increases the heart rate and it decreases the BP. Okay, so there is a decrease in BP, but the pulse pressure increases. Why? Because isoproterenol has beta selective action. So now patients with pheochromocytoma, adrenal medullary tumor, may have this tumor for several months or several years before symptoms or signs lead to a diagnosis. So predict the compensatory probable responses to chronic increase in blood pressure caused by tumor releasing large amounts of norepinephrine. Let's discuss the answer later. So coming to the clinical uses, pharmacokinetic characteristics and clinical applications of selected sympathomimetics. So coming to anaphylaxis, epinephrine is the drug of choice for the immediate treatment of anaphylactic shock, hypotension, bronchospasm, and angioedema because it is an effective physiological antagonist of many of the mediators of anaphylaxis. Antihistamines and corticosteroids may also be used, but these agents are neither as efficacious as epinephrine nor as rapid acting. So the critical need for epinephrine as a readily injectable form for anaphylaxis has called attention to recent price gouging for the standard product, EpiPens. Alright. Next, coming to central nervous system, the phenylisopropylamines such as amphetamine are widely used and are abused for their CNS effects. Legitimate indications include narcolepsy, and with appropriate adjunct therapy, weight reduction. The anorexia effect may be helpful in initiating weight loss, but it is insufficient to maintain the loss unless patients also receive intense dietary and psychological counseling and support. Methylphenidate and other amphetamine analogs are heavily used in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder because they make you happy. The drugs are abused or misused for the purpose of deferring sleep and for their mood elevating euphoria producing action. Cocaine is abused for its mood elevating effect. Okay, these drugs have a high addiction liability. Coming to the eye, they are mydriatics, right? So especially phenylephrine and tetrahydrozoline are often used to reduce the conjunctival itching and congestion caused by irritation or allergy. Phenylephrine is also an effective mydriatic, so they reduce both itching because of congestion, and also they cause dilation or mydriasis. These drugs do not cause cycloplegia. Newer alpha 2 agonists are in current use for glaucoma and include apraclonidine and brimonidine. Okay, newer drugs, newer alpha 2 agonists are in current use for glaucoma. They include apraclonidine and brimonidine. As noted, the alpha 2 selective agonists appear to reduce the synthesis of aqueous humor. Alpha 1 increases the outflow, alpha 2 reduces the synthesis. Okay. So, coming to actions on the bronchi, the beta agonists, especially the beta 2 selective agonists, are the drugs of choice in the treatment of acute asthmatic bronchoconstriction. Salbutamol. So, remember albuterol, metaproterenol, and terbutaline. Okay. they are short acting beta 2 selective agonists and are not recommended for prophylaxis, but they are safe and effective and may be life saving in the treatment of acute bronchospasm. Much longer acting beta 2 selective agonists such as salmeterol, formoterol, indacaterol, and olodaterol and vilanterol are used in combination with corticosteroids or anti-muscarinic agents for prophylaxis in asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. They are not indicated for the treatment of acute symptoms. But what is indicated? Albuterol, metoprolol, and terbutaline. Okay. So now coming to cardiovascular applications, conditions in which an increase in blood flow is needed. In acute heart failure or in some types of shock, an increase in cardiac output and blood flow to the tissues is needed. Beta 1 agonists may be useful in this situation because they increase cardiac contractility and reduce afterload by decreasing the impedance to ventricular ejection through a small beta 2 effect. So norepinephrine, in contrast to earlier recommendations, is an effective agent in septic and cardiogenic shock when used properly. Dopamine is also used to cause vasodilation to increase the blood flow. Unfortunately, the arrhythmogenic effects of these drugs may be dose limiting. Okay. Conditions in which a decrease in blood flow or increase in blood pressure is needed. So alpha 1 agonists are used in situations in which vasoconstriction is appropriate. These include local hemostatic epinephrine and decongestant effects, phenylephrine, as well as shock, norepinephrine, phenylephrine, in which temporary maintenance of pressure may help maintain perfusion of the brain, heart, and kidneys. Okay. High doses of vasoconstrictors can worsen the shock due to septicemia or myocardial infarction because cardiac reserve is marginal. Alpha agonists are often mixed with local injections to reduce the loss of anesthetic from the area of injection into the circulation. Chronic orthostatic hypotension due to inadequate sympathetic tone can be treated with oral epinephrine or a neurioral drug midodrine. Neurioral alpha 1 agonist midodrine. Conditions in which acute cardiac stimulation is needed. Epinephrine has been used in cardiac arrest by intravenous and direct intracardiac injection. Isoproterenol has been used for AV block. Coming to genitourinary tract, so we have beta 2 agonists such as ritodrine and terbutaline, which are sometimes used to suppress premature labor. But the cardiac stimulant effect with arrhythmias may be hazardous to both mother and the fetus. So ritodrine and terbutaline, even though they are sometimes used to suppress premature labor, they have antiarrhythmic effects. They have arithmetic effects on this with the cardiac stimulants effect. So non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, such as calcium channel blockers and magnesium, are also used for this indication. Longer acting oral sympathomimetics such as ephedrine are sometimes used to improve urinary continence in the elderly and in children with enuresis. This action is mediated by alpha receptors in the trigone of the bladder and in men the smooth muscle of the prostate. That is why ephedra, the plant that is found in Rajasthan, most old people consume it for urinary continence. Toxicity. Because of their limited penetration into the brain, catecholamines have little CNS toxicity when given systematically. In the periphery, their adverse effects are extensions of their pharmacological alpha or beta actions, such as excessive vasoconstriction, cardiac arrhythmias, myocardial infarction, hemorrhagic stroke, and pulmonary edema or hemorrhage. The phenylisopropylamines may produce mild to severe CNS toxicity because they are synthetic, depending on the dosage. In moderate doses, they may induce nervousness, anorexia, and insomnia. In higher doses, they may cause anxiety, aggressiveness, or paranoid behavior. Convulsions may occur in case of cocaine. Peripherally acting agents have toxicities that are predictable on the basis of the receptors they activate. Thus, alpha 1 agonists cause hypertension, beta 1 agonists cause sinus tachycardia and serious arrhythmias. Beta 2 agonists cause skeletal muscle tremor. It is important to note that none of these drugs is perfectly selective. At high doses, beta 1 selective agents have beta 2 actions and vice versa. So, cocaine is of special importance as a drug of abuse. Its major toxicities include cardiac arrhythmias or infarction and seizures. A fatal outcome is more common with acute cocaine overdose than with any other sympathomimetic. Okay. So, coming to the skill keeper answer, because the control mechanisms that attempt to maintain blood pressure constant are intact in patients with pheochromocytoma. They are not intact, they are reset in patients with ordinary essential hypertension. A number of compensatory changes are observed in pheochromocytoma patients. These include reduced renin, angiotensin, and aldosterone levels in the blood. Reduced aldosterone causes more salt and water to be excreted by the kidney, reducing blood volume. Since the red cell mass is not affected, hematocrit is often increased. If the tumor releases only norepinephrine, a compensatory bradycardia may also be present, but most patients release enough epinephrine to maintain heart rate at a normal or even increased level. So that's it with this chapter. So we already discussed all the uses, right?